conflict has bled into the bedrock at Tug Fork. Its banks have seen families and countrymen turn on each other. But the river does not mediate, judge, or absolve. This is feud country. The Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky find their most stark and dramatic relief in easternmost Pike County. Early settlers through the Cumberland Gap found this maze of ridges so inaccessible and dangerous that they preferred conquering the west instead, leaving the eastern wilderness to the most hardy of people. This is a land of rugged individualism and labor conflicts. This is where the Hatfields and the McCoys took the law into their own hands, and their vigilante justice became a cultural obsession. Carving a serpentine meander right through the middle of this strife is the Tug Fork of the Big Sandy River. For barely half of its 159-mile-long run, the contours of the Tug provide the border between Pike County, Kentucky, and Mingo County, West Virginia. It begins life as a small stream in the southernmost part of McDowell County, West Virginia. At its end in Louisa, Kentucky, the Tug gains the breadth of a small river, but in its middle reaches it is only as wide as some of the larger creeks in Kentucky. This middle section harbors two floats. One is a longer voyage featuring excellent scenery and smallmouth bass fishing. The other is a short but productive journey through the heart of Hatfield-Mccoy feud country. Before committing to any float, you should first consult the weather and current stream flow of the water body you intend to paddle. For Tug Fork, flows between 200 to 700 CFS offer the best conditions for paddling and fishing. If flows are lower than 200, paddlers will likely need to walk their boats over drops and shallow shoals. The Tug's mild drops are perfect for families, beginners, and intermediate paddlers. The first float begins in Juan, West Virginia and ends in South Williamson, Kentucky. This is an 11 to 12 mile long float, so it's a fun time for those looking for a full day's adventure. This stretch contains long pulls interrupted by brief riffles and features more paddling than fishing. Fish the top and bottom of riffles for big smallmouth bass.
Smallmouth bass fishery is one of the most popular fisheries. Size distribution's real good from say your 3-4 inch to 20, 21 inch, maybe 22 inch on the larger end. There's plenty of 3 to 4 pound fish to go after. Pike County is going to have some of the best sections for the smallmouth bass fishing. We have some good access in Pike County now with local individuals, county and city people working together to create spots fishermen and anglers can use.
It's important to note that this section includes a low-head dam that must be portaged around. The dam is located in Williamson, West Virginia, and is 1.5 miles upstream of the takeout. Paddlers may choose to end their float here by parking behind the Williamson water plant and using a path on River Right just upstream of a metal retaining wall. Low-head dams can be hard to see while floating and are extremely dangerous. Boaters also may paddle for another 1.5 miles to reach the concrete boat ramp in South Williamson, Kentucky. The ramp is on River Left, just downstream of a hard right bend. The second float begins at the Hatfield-Mccoy Park in McCarr, Kentucky. It ends in northern Juan, West Virginia. This is a fun 3-mile float that wanders through a landscape full of history. Within 500 feet of the put-in at the Hatfield-Mccoy Park, the river braids around an island. Stay left and you'll be treated to a long riffle edged with sycamore and water willow. Fish the end of this riffle using a Texas-rigged 4-inch worm or creature bait. After the island, the tug straightens out into a long pool. Toward the end of this pool is a small viewing deck that hangs over the left bank. This is a park marking the location of the infamous Pawpaw tree incident, where the lives of 3 McCoys were taken by a posse led by Devil Anse Hatfield himself. The McCoy brothers had attacked and fatally wounded Devil Anse's brother Ellison 2 days prior on Election Day in August 1882. The location of this watershed moment of the feud can be accessed off the State Highway 319 in McCarr, Kentucky. Coincidentally, the cabin is also the site of the famous hog trial, which many historians believe started the feud in the first place. Back on the water, the tug makes a sharp left before splitting around a gravel bar. This area provides the easiest wade fishing opportunities on the float. Above the riffle, beach on river left and fish the area above the gravel bar with a crawfish-colored crankbait. Below the riffle, pull off onto the large gravel bar at the mouth of Mate Creek and fish the seam water on the downstream side. The stoic facade of the Mate Juan Floodwall stands sentinel over this part of the tug, with its many illustrations depicting the formative events of the town. What Mate Juan lacks in size, it makes up for in history. This town is best known for the Mate Juan Massacre, the high noon Main Street shootout of 1920 between pro-Union coal miners and the Baldwin Felts detectives charged with evicting them from their company-owned homes. Backed up by armed miners, the pro-Union police chief Sid Hatfield approached the detectives and an argument ensued, leading to a battle that left 10 dead. Hatfield and 17 others were acquitted of murder charges, but he and his friend Ed Chambers were later charged with conspiracy over an incident unrelated to the earlier shootout. They were shot and killed on the courthouse steps by Baldwin Felts agents. Miners considered Hatfield a hero after the Mate Juan Massacre and were enraged by this blatant assassination. A 10,000-strong army of coal miners took up arms and fought coal company supporters. This was a proper war. Trenches were dug, machine guns were exhausted, biplanes dropped homemade bombs. 1,000,000 rounds were fired. The fighting became so intense that President Warren G. Harding ordered 2,000 federal troops to mobilize near the fight. As many of the miners were veterans of World War I, they didn't consider the federal government to be their enemy and didn't want to fire upon American servicemen. The fighting stopped and many miners gave up their guns. The Battle of Blair Mountain, as it has come to be called, was the largest armed insurrection since the Civil War. The 1056 bridge into Mate Juan represents 1 mile of floating distance. The rest of the float is made of long pools that are known for holding big catfish.
With the flatheads, we'll see some bigger sizes. We've actually seen some 30 to 45 pound. If you're in some rocky areas, might see more numbers of them then. The channel catfish population, we would probably rate it excellent. They're good size that people would want to keep, a lot of 16 to 24 inch fish.
2¼ miles into the float, paddlers will see the double bridge of the Norfolk Southern Railroad. Make sure to fish the rock bar and adjacent riffle just downstream of the bridges. The river flows over 2 more drops before leveling out into a long pool. The takeout is on river right, just before the next riffle. Access to the takeout is located in a small roadside park off of Highway 49. The next time you're looking for a float that combines history, scenery, and excellent fishing, take a trip to the eastern borderlands of Kentucky. Ask the Tug Fork about its memories, and settle in for a long story.
Today we're across the Tug Fork River from downtown Mate Juan. The floodwall is right there, trying to catch some smallmouth bass. Last night we caught a couple, but overnight there was a cell of thunderstorms that went through the headwaters, and the river has come up just a bit, but it's really colored the water. And we're struggling a little bit today to catch fish. If you ever want to check the flow of rivers like this, you can go to the wonderful website for the U.S. Geological Survey, waterdata.usgs.gov. Click on the state you want and hit the statewide stream flow table, and it'll give you an idea of what you're going to look at when you get to the river. We'll put the link in the description below.